Tonight on the Mike Tomlin Show, the Steelers have to wait till Monday night for their Week 1 matchup against the New York Giants. Ryan Shazier announces his retirement, and I go one-on-one with Stephon Tuitt. The Mike Tomlin Show starts right now.
Here we go. This pass is caught, and that's a touchdown. That's the way to work. Come on. He's hit that sack. The Steelers win the football game. Let's go. Come get it. You know what it is.
This one is in the history books.
Here we go.
The Mike Tomlin Show is presented by 84 Lumber.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first Mike Tomlin Show of a new season. Are you ready for some football? I know the Steelers are. We're joined by head coach Mike Tomlin in this virtual world, a whole different experience. And, Coach, I want to just start with what this whole pandemic football has been like for you, teaching virtually. How much could you accomplish? How much did you expect to accomplish? And how much did you meet those goals?
You know, I've been really impressed with the coaches and the players and their willingness and their ability to adjust under the circumstances. You know, these circumstances aren't ideal. I'd much rather be sitting alongside you as we do this show, just like you would in an instructional setting. But present circumstances being what they are, I think we've all been light on our feet, and I've really been impressed with the amount of things we've been able to get done from a teaching and a learning standpoint remotely. We spent our entire spring working remotely. We've installed football in all three phases, offense, defense, and kicking remotely. And it was good to get in a training camp-like environment like we've been in for the last couple of weeks and see that there was some retention and we weren't starting from ground zero. So it's a tip of the cap to the coaches and the players, and more so the coaches than the players we found throughout this. Young people, man, they adjust, particularly as it pertains to technology. Us coaches, we're a little bit more resistant to the change, and so a tip of the cap to the players in particular.
Yeah, you have a lot of tremendous players on your roster this year. Most everyone is back, including number 7. Just give everyone an update what his training camp was like and your expectations and concerns concerning Ben Roethlisberger.
Sure. First of all, I had very little medical reservations as it pertained to his health. We just relied on the expert medical advice of our medical team, and they've been in continual and constant communication with him, not only about the surgical procedure, but the aftermath, the rehab, and they've all done a good job, including Ben, in terms of communicating and approaching that in the appropriate yet aggressive manner. In terms of his overall health, I think it's been really good. It hadn't affected how he's worked at all. He's worked in a very similar manner that he has during preseason processes in recent years. I see no issues relative to his velocity. He and I both have spoken about it a number of times. I've seen his spiral tighter in the past, and so has he. But we are both comfortable in believing that that's going to develop over time as he continues to get back on track. But from a velocity standpoint, his ability to deliver the ball to different points on the field and the things that we've become accustomed to him displaying appears to be ready to go.
Coach, you had a couple of rookies who made big impacts last year, and you're always big on talking about year 1 to year 2. Diontae Johnson had a massive season for a rookie, as did Devin Bush. What are your expectations in year 2 for those guys?
I believe it's reasonable to expect those guys to go through the natural maturation process. And that process is really centered around the acknowledgement that lap around the track provides certain knowledge for them where they're no longer speculating. So if you're Diontae, if you're Devin Bush, you know the battle that lies ahead in terms of the rigors of the week in and week out. So they're better prepared to meet those battles, and it starts first and foremost there. Both guys showed up in the training camp in much better physical condition than they did a year ago, and I think that is a springboard for all the things that follow. They're more available during the course of practice. They're more available to take more reps. And the availability regarding the reps produces an accelerated developmental process. And I could say that both guys are right in line with that discussion. Both guys showed up in better condition. Both guys were able to assume and to absorb more reps because of it. And both guys are more game ready as we approach game 1 and that just takes the experience of what they had in 2019 out of it. Just pure readiness. They're in a better place.
Well, unlike those two guys, this year's draft class doesn't have what they had last year, which was a complete OTA, minicamp, training camp. So with that in mind, how much can you expect from guys like Chase Claypool and Alex Highsmith, your two high-end picks that you brought in this year? Can they make an immediate contribution, or because of this pandemic, is it slowed a bit?
I think it's two things. I think we have an anticipated contribution expectation that comes from what we've seen during this team development process. But we also understand that we haven't been in stadiums with these guys, and that is subject to change. And so, we're speculating that the process could be slower for this class for obvious reasons. All we have to go on is what we've seen, and we have been thoughtful about giving those guys opportunities to display what they're capable of and to learn. So we're going in with some expectations, but we got to be light on our feet. As we have to in a lot of these circumstances centered around the start of 2020, and be ready to adjust based on what we see and or experience.
One defensive question for you, and that would be, is this the best defensive team you've had since you've been here? You've had some good ones. This one looks pretty stout.
Legendary defenses kind of make their mark over the long haul, and particularly as it pertains to the playoffs and dominance through that run. And so by no means do I intend to put this group in the company of some of those others. This group hadn't left the station yet. Some of those others delivered the goods on the big international stages. And hopefully this group develops and have an opportunity to maybe be comparable and answer some of those questions. But as we sit here today, it's just not fair to them to put them in the company of some of those legendary defenses that did what they did in late January and the 1st of February, and that's where those discussions belong.
Well, the Steelers hope to deliver the goods this year in what should be a very interesting season all the way through. Expectations are high. When we come back, head coach Mike Tomlin and I will discuss the first opponent. It's the New York Football Giants. That's coming up in just a bit. Right now, let's send it back over to Missy Matthews.
And an interesting season it will be, no doubt, this year, Bob. Because of the pandemic, the Steelers will end up playing at least their first 3 games of the 2020 season without fans, including Monday night at MetLife Stadium. Coming up next, Coach Tomlin crashes Ryan Shazier's retirement press conference. You don't want to miss it.
More than anything, I just want you to know how fun it was for me to watch that natural development. I appreciate you for allowing me to be a part of that. I got nothing but love for you, man. And, this is just the beginning, man, as you transition. And we really wanted to be here because we just want you to know that we love you, brother. And we really looking forward to watching you take the next step in life and being a part of that as well. And seeing the greatness that God has in store for you in that chapter as well. Congratulations.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you.
That, of course, was Coach Tomlin and Vince Williams crashing Ryan Shazier's Zoom press conference on Wednesday. Shazier announced his retirement from football, but as Steelers general manager Kevin Colbert put it best, he can retire from football, but he will always be part of the Steelers football family. And the Steelers' 2020 journey begins on Monday night at MetLife Stadium. So let's head back over to Bob and Coach for more on the team's Week 1 opponent.
All right, Missy, thanks very much. It's the first game. It's a Monday night game under the lights against the Giants. They have a whole bunch of new people, including their head coach. Mike, I want to ask you about just what it's like. Joe Judge, first opportunity, but it comes in a very unique situation. How much more difficult does it make it as a head coach to come into this situation?
This situation is difficult in a lot of ways for a lot of us. It's difficult for him in terms of decision making and finding his footing, particularly in game, without preseason games and so forth, but it also makes him a tougher nut to crack from an anticipation standpoint. We have very little to go on in terms of in-stadium evidence of what their personality might be in all 3 phases and what some schematic things they might be interested in doing. So, this COVID environment, this pandemic 2020 season without preseason football is going to create challenges and certain advantages for all of us. And I think more than anything as we get into the opener, if we're all prudent, we're all focusing on what it is that we do and the quality in which we do it, because there's so many unknowns when you look outside yourself, particularly as it pertains to a new staff like Coach Judge and company, as you mentioned.
Coach, let's talk about two of their big players on offense. They returned Daniel Jones, a quarterback. He had some up performances and some down ones. You would expect that as a rookie, but you got to deal with Saquon Barkley too. Those two guys, talk specifically about their impact on this offense.
Let's start first with Saquon. I mean, you know, he's a special player. I'm familiar with him, obviously, from his college days up in Happy Valley, but hadn't seen a lot of him since he's been in the league because he's an NFC guy. From studying him all offseason and through the summer, he is as good as advertised. The football will flow through him. We don't have a chance of being effective in this game unless we minimize his impact on it really in all situations. He's the type of guy that's capable of dominating the game in just about any and every way and in all circumstances. Interior run, perimeter run, the passing game, short yardage, goal line, red zone. He's just a special player, and I think he merits a certain amount of attention, and rightfully so. Particularly in regards to Daniel Jones, I just got a lot of respect for the talents that he displayed as a young guy and in tough circumstances a year ago. It's been well documented that he turned the ball over some, but that's going to be part of the circumstances that he was in, being behind and being a young quarterback. I also noticed that he had some really standout elements of his performance, his ability to lead his team from behind, his ability to deliver in big moments like in overtime and so forth. His pedigree speaks for itself. His draft position verifies his pedigree. He can make any throw on the field. His arm talent is really impressive. His mobility is really impressive, and his prudent use of that mobility and his willingness to do it, particularly in situational football, is something that we have to contend with.
They have a defense that lost some big players, but they also have Dexter Lawrence, who's a pretty good young-looking player. What can you do offensively to go down the field against this team? If you look at their roster of defense right now, what would be the area you'd like to strike against?
You know, first and foremost, we have to be highly concerned about their front. You mentioned Dexter Lawrence, and Dexter Lawrence is a monster. But he's also accompanied by some real quality players. Leonard Williams is a former top 10 pick out of Southern Cal. Tomlinson is a formidable nose guard. They've got some really good edge players in Carter and others. We got to really do a really good job up front. You know, we should anticipate those guys being multiple. We better be prepared to block 3-man fronts, 4-man fronts. And so, you know, we have our hands full, particularly as it pertains to the front and winning the line of scrimmage and being able to anticipate the myriad of things that we could see from them. Obviously, they got some new pieces and components in the secondary, some of which were added extremely recently, like Logan Ryan. Logan Ryan is a quality professional, a guy that's been impactful wherever he's been. I think his stat line last year speaks to his versatility. He had 73 tackles, 4.5 sacks, and 4 interceptions. He's the type of guy that's capable of playing outside corner, inside corner, and the safety position. But because he's new to them, the cohesion in the secondary is probably something that concerns them. The division of labor is something in the secondary that probably concerns them. They have a new secondary man out of UCLA that's scheduled, Holmes, that's scheduled to play inside for them, maybe at the nickel spot. Bradbury is a new lockdown corner for him. Although he's not new to the NFL, he is new to them. So they got some new pieces on the back end that they're trying to mesh together. But, man, that front is a formidable one. Dexter Lawrence is a monster, but so is Leonard Williams and others. We better do a good job of covering up the necessary bodies to minimize negativity and to stay on schedule. And they have the type of front, they have the type of flexibility with their schematics that could create negative plays, and we got to stay away from that.
Should be a tremendous opener. The Steelers at the New York Giants on a Monday night. We have more with Coach Tomlin coming up and the role of sports in this current situation we're all in with the pandemic. We'll talk to him about that when we come back. Right now, let's send it back over to Missy.
All right, thanks, guys. Straight ahead here on the Mike Tomlin Show, Stephon Tuitt missed more than half of the 2019 season. I had a chance to go virtually one-on-one with him coming up.
The Mike Tomlin Show is presented by 84 Lumber. Are you 84 Lumber material? Visit 84lumber.com/careers to learn more.
Monday night doesn't just mark the return of Ben Roethlisberger. On defense, Stephon Tuitt will be playing in his first game since Week 6 of the 2019 season. I had a chance to virtually chat with him one-on-one to talk about his road to recovery and much more. All right, Stephon, does it seem like the Week 1 regular season getting to this point was going to be hard to do, or were you pleasantly surprised of how this process was of getting here today?
It was a surprise, only in the beginning, before we started our OTAs, only the way that things were looking. They didn't look too good, but the NFL program did a great job in creating rules for all the organizations to follow, and I think a lot of the players did a great job of following those rules.
Coming off of an injury where you missed more than half of the 2019 season, how ready are you to go against somebody else other than the Steelers offense?
I am so ready. I'm pumped. I'm excited to be back with the boys. I'm excited to be representing the organization again. It's a blessing always to be a part of an organization in the NFL, and to be able to sit down in this chair and talk to you is another blessing of mine too.
You mentioned during training camp how much Cam Hayward helped you through your rehab, through the injury, and just getting back to where you are today. What is the biggest thing that Cam did for you to maybe, whenever you were having a bad moment, get through it?
Well, it wasn't, well, let me rephrase that. I got a chance to witness his injury. I think that was, I can't remember what, my 4th year or whatnot, but I got a chance to see him go through the process. And, being able to see him go through the process, see what the doctors did with him, see what he did in the offseason when I trained with him, I was able to just correlate that back to myself and remember all of those things and put it forth for this season.
How hard was it? You're like the Ben Roethlisberger of the defense in terms of coming back from an injury. Everybody on defense saying, we really missed Tuitt. He was able to do a lot of damage in those first few games. We're excited to have him back. So how hard was this process?
Well, the process was hard. Any big time injury, it's a lot to come back from, and I had a big one. And just to be able to have my teammates speak about me the way that they have done in the media, and to get a chance to read that was motivation for me to continue to go and to not have my head down, but to pick it up and come back more than ready. And just that's the example of what team and teammates, and this is a family unit, and that's at the end of the day, this is a job that that have to have positions filled and the best man for those positions. And when things happen, unfortunately for certain people in those positions, it could be very hard for them when they're outside of the the family atmosphere, the team atmosphere. So to be able to have those guys speak and say those things to me and say those things about me was definitely motivated for me to make sure I came back even 2 times better than I was before.
Is there any pressure knowing that so many guys have said, well, Tuitt's back, we have Tuitt back, adding to our defense and hopefully building on what we did last season? Is there pressure with that?
No, there's no pressure. This is my 7th year in the NFL. If I felt like that was pressure now, then that'd be pretty bad.
Do you set a goal for yourself personally for this season?
I set a goal for myself, but it's just definitely just recovery, stay on top of my body, and just putting forth my best effort every game.
All right, so what is Cam gonna provide for the D-line? Maybe some dinner? What are you guys asking for?
Well, I already have my wish list, so
You do? Do you give that to Cam?
I don't think he should complain. I definitely helped him get there. It's what a tremendous opportunity for him. We all know what type of player he is and what type of guy he is off the field, and usually those type of guys get the contracts like that. So it's also for him to get his 3rd deal here and finish off here as a Steeler.
All right, Stephon, it was good to virtually talk to you.
I know. I don't usually see you as a camera, but hey, we all transform sometimes in our own way.
It's okay. We gotta do what we gotta do, right? There's more to come here on the Mike Tomlin Show, presented by 84 Lumber. We'll be right back.
The Mike Tomlin Show is presented by 84 Lumber.
Well, if you felt like it took forever to get to week 1 of the NFL season, you are not alone. And as we have learned this summer, thanks to other major sports leagues, sports play such a crucial part of our society. Before we say goodnight, let's head back over to Bob and Coach for more of his final thoughts.
All right, Missy, thanks very much. Before we go, Coach, I want to ask you about just the role of sports in conditions like this. People seem to crave it. It's a unifying force in many ways. How important is it to get back on the field and give people what they want, to take their minds away from some of this stuff?
You know, it's important on so many levels. You know, it's important to us, the things that we are passionate about, getting an opportunity to do it, and that's something that we don't take for granted. You know, a lot of us sat at home and had some unanswered questions for the better part of the spring and summer. So it's great to be in the position that we're in right now, poised and ready to kind of get this thing started, and you appreciate it from that perspective. But also just from a fan's perspective, just the quality of life that sport entertainment provides, the unscripted live entertainment. I've been thirsty for it. I've watched a lot of baseball and bubble basketball as college football has gotten started. Man, I've been really excited about that. Man, I watched Central Arkansas, I think Austin Peay. Man, I watched that wire to wire the other night. That's just where we are as those of us that appreciate sport, unscripted live sport entertainment. You know, you can't bottle it. It is what it is, and we're appreciative of it. But as somebody that produces it or a part of the production of it, I'm really humbled to provide that entertainment. But I'm equally excited just to get an opportunity to do what we love to do.
All of that will start on Monday night. Coach, we appreciate the time. Best of luck in New York. And that's going to do it for our first Mike Tomlin Show. We'll be at you every single Saturday night. For Missy Matthews and Hey Coach Mike Tomlin, I'm Bob Pompeani. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next Saturday right here on KDKA TV.